our business is situated in Keith in South Australia, which is the key area for the production of lucerne seed. In Australia, our seed season begins typically in July, when we'll start with a weed control phase of our seed crops. We'll be grazing our crop up until about late August, and then it'll be closed for hay production. We'll perhaps take 2 cuts of hay and then look to close our seed crop up, usually in the middle of December. So what we're looking at here is a soil moisture probe graph from an irrigated lucerne seed crop. We've got the entire growth phase, including the hay, right through until the seed crop is harvested. So what we're essentially looking at here is there's a lot of different irrigation strategies within the one season for us. Here we can see that we're putting on a large amount of irrigations in a short period of time, which is trying to promote the vegetative growth of a hay crop. At this point in time here, you can see that the crop has been cut, and that's why the crop is flatlined. We've got no moisture use after the crop has had the canopy removed. There's a period in time for about 10 days where the hay is curing. Once the hay is baled, we can recommence irrigating. The crop will then be irrigated quite heavily for about 4 weeks to try and build the soil moisture profile so that we can enter flowering with a full moisture profile. If we zoom in on this section of the graph here, we can see the difference in the stepping from the crop. So immediately after irrigating, we can see quite large steps. So this flat line section here is during the nightfall when there's no crop water use, and then we've got very large steps during the day, which represents a high level of crop water use because the moisture is readily available and is in the shallow sections of the profile. As we get on through the phase, we can see that the steps get smaller because the water is harder to access and the crop generally has to pull them from deeper. If we go back to the main graph now, we can see that for the first month we've got a lot of irrigations and closer together, and we're not letting the crop dry down. Once we get into this period here, this is when we're starting to enter budding and flowering. The whole concept behind scheduling for lucerne seed crops is trying to maximise the area here between this early refill and the bottom refill, when the crop is not stressed but is understanding that there's not freely available moisture around. If we just zoom in on these periods here, we can see that if we didn't have a soil moisture probe and we watered 3 days early to be on the safe side, we'd dramatically reduce the amount of time in this, what we call the sweet spot here. Once again, on this section here, if we come forward 3 days, because we're trying to be on the safe side, it would have a dramatic impact on the production of seed. Lucerne seed production, the plant can't be in stress, but it must be in a declining plane of soil moisture to be able to set seed. So if we just undo back to here, so once we've got to the point where we've once we've finished flowering, put one last irrigation on for pod fill, and then we're letting the crop dry back down, finish flowering, and let the pods ripen before harvest in late March.